I was pouring coffee when I noticed the bruise. It was faint, high on Ellen's wrist, the kind you only see when she pushes her sleeve up too far. She caught me looking and tugged her sweater back down. Bumped into a cabinet, she said, with a smile that didn't touch her eyes. The Sunday morning felt peaceful. Pancakes, cooking, the ceiling fan softly buzzing, but that nagging thought stuck in my mind like a splinter. Ellen had been living with us for 3 weeks, ever since my father-in-law's sudden heart attack. Her presence was a lot. She wasn't unkind. Exactly. Just careful with her words, like each one was part of a game she didn't want to explain to me. She would sit in the living room for hours, phone in hand, scrolling with the sound off. Sometimes I'd catch her smiling at something she wasn't willing to share. My wife Lauren said I was being paranoid. She's grieving, Mark. She needs family right now. But the thing about grief, it doesn't usually make people hide bruises. The first mini twist came 2 days later. I'd gone out to the garage to grab a wrench and noticed a shoebox on the workbench. Not mine. Inside were stacks of bank withdrawal slips, each for $10,000, all dated in the past 6 months, all signed by my late father-in-law. The amounts were just small enough to avoid IRS reporting. When I brought it up to Lauren, she frowned but stayed quiet. Dad was generous, she finally said. Maybe he was helping a friend, but there was something in her tone, an edge, that told me this wasn't news to her. Ellen started taking long afternoon walks. She'd leave without a word, no phone calls, just an old leather purse slung over her shoulder. One day, curiosity got the better of me. I followed her. She didn't go to the park or the grocery store. She went to a rundown house on the edge of town, knocked twice, then slipped inside. When she emerged an hour later, she wasn't carrying the purse. That night at dinner, she was chatty, telling us about some distant cousin I'd never heard of, who apparently lived in Florida now. She laughed a lot, but her eyes kept flicking toward the hall where my briefcase was. It hit me then. She was measuring, calculating, and that bruise. It was back. This time higher up, closer to her elbow. The second minute twist came in the form of a phone call. A man's voice, low and shaky. Is this Mark Kendall? Yes. You don't know me, but you should keep your kids away from your mother-in-law. We don't have kids. Before I could respond, the line went dead. I confronted Lauren about the call. She looked scared, not confused. I think you're overreacting, she said, but her hands were trembling when she reached for her wine glass. That night, when she was asleep, I checked her phone. She'd been texting Ellen about the account and closing it before Mark notices. The last message from Ellen read, "Tomorrow night, don't screw this up." The third mini twist came fast. The next day, a lawyer's envelope arrived in the mail. Addressed to Lauren, inside, a copy of her father's will. The updated version, dated 2 months before his death. It left the entire estate, including a sizable trust fund, to Ellen. Not to Lauren. Not to anyone else. But there was a handwritten note clipped to the back. 4 words, he didn't sign this. By now, the bruise didn't seem random. It seemed like a message, but from who, to who, and why, I didn't know yet. That night, Ellen left again. This time, I didn't follow on foot. I tailed her in the car, headlights off until I had to turn. Same rundown house, but tonight, she stayed longer. When she finally emerged, she wasn't alone. A man followed, tall, thin, with a face like it had been carved out of stone. They spoke briefly, and he handed her something small. She pocketed it without looking. I decided to be ready. Without telling Lauren, I installed a motion camera in the hallway outside our bedroom. I didn't tell her, I also copied Ellen's house key from her purse. I didn't tell her I'd been digging through public court records on my lunch breaks. The footage came 2 nights later. While we were sleeping, Ellen entered our room. She didn't touch us. Just stood there for a long minute, looking. Then she opened Lauren's nightstand drawer, took out a folder, and left. The folder was empty the next morning. Lauren swore she had no idea what had been inside. The first big crack appeared when I found Elon's birth certificate. Not the original, a forged one. The name didn't match. The date of birth didn't match. Hell, the state didn't match. When I compared it to the real public record, I realized Ellen, my mother-in-law, had been legally dead since 1992. Whoever was living in my house wasn't who she claimed to be. I confronted her that night. She didn't deny it. She just smiled and said, "You're in way over your head, Mark." Then she asked me if I'd ever wondered how my father-in-law really died. It all unraveled fast after that. The bruise wasn't from an accident, it was a mark, a signal used by members of a quiet but well-organized criminal network. They ran inheritance scams, targeted widows and vulnerable families, used intimidation and fake documents to siphon money before anyone noticed. Ellen wasn't working alone. Lauren knew. The night one found the proof, I played it cool, acted like nothing had changed, waited until they both left the house, together, for one of their mysterious errands. Then I called someone I'd been speaking to for weeks, Detective Harris. Financial Crimes Unit. When Harris arrived, he didn't come with backup. He didn't even bring a warrant. Because he wasn't there to arrest Ellen, He was there to collect his cut. That's when I told him. The cameras weren't just in the hallway. They were everywhere, and the footage wasn't on my laptop. It was already in the hands of a federal agent. Because I hadn't just been suspicious, I'd been working with the feds from the moment I found that shoebox. I'd been letting Ellen play her game, letting Lauren dig herself deeper, so they'd have enough for racketeering charges. When Harris realized it, his face went white. He backed toward the door, but the agent stepped in before he made it out. By the time Ellen and Lauren returned, the house was crawling with law enforcement. Lauren's eyes locked on mine. "You knew," she whispered. I didn't answer. The last thing Ellen said before they took her away was, "You think this ends with me? It started with you." And maybe she was right. Because the final account transfer, the one no one had noticed yet, was in my name. I didn't steal their money. I just kept it from going back.